It's 1902. A young man named Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He becomes deeply involved in socialism, working with trade unions, writing for socialist newspapers, and advocating for the violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole package. This gets him into some trouble with the Swiss police, leading to his arrest, deportation back to Italy, release, a return to Switzerland, another arrest, and then back to Italy again. He finally completes his military service after previously dodging it, spends a brief period as an elementary school teacher, and then returns to his fervent socialist activism. His speeches and journalistic talents made him well known among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1910, he protested and was arrested. Then World War I began, and he again opposed Italy's involvement. But then he reconsidered, thinking this war might create the social conditions needed to overthrow European monarchies and trigger a socialist revolution everywhere. Suddenly, he switched to a pro-war stance. His fellow socialists disapproved of this change and expelled him from the party. So Mussolini declared, "You know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions that tear us apart, but on unity through nationality. We will conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italians, just like during the Roman Empire." He called this new ideology fascismo, which would lead Italy to greatness. That sounds promising, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut should I give you? Let's go with bold. Italy had been on the winning side in World War I and hoped for significant rewards. In the end, they received only a little and felt cheated. On top of that, a poor economy and weak governments left the Italian people dissatisfied. So when Mussolini arrived claiming he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained substantial support. In 1922, he confronted the king and demanded to be made prime minister, threatening to make himself prime minister if refused. The king replied, "You and what army?" Mussolini answered, "This army." Fair enough. He then set about establishing a dictatorship with himself at the center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next came Germany. Germany had been on the losing side and was severely punished by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, reduce their army to 100,000 men, were forbidden to have an air force, had to pay enormous reparations they couldn't afford, and a new rule was supposedly established, allowing every Englishman to walk into Berlin, pick any German, and spank them. I made that last part up, but it illustrates how humiliating it felt to Germans. On top of that, a weak economy and unstable governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache appeared, promising to fix everything, the German people embraced him. Hitler, a World War I soldier and fervent patriot, was furious about Germany's humiliation. He helped found a new political party, and in 1923 attempted a march on Munich with his followers, which failed and led to his arrest. Despite this, his popularity grew, and in 1933 the president appointed him chancellor. Believing himself Germany's destined savior, he became a megalomaniac and established a dictatorship centered on himself. Europe now had its second fascist dictator. Hitler and Mussolini shared many ideas, but more importantly, they had common enemies and began to ally. Anyone else want to join? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? Japan. Japan had taken over northern China. Let's rewind a bit. Japan had isolated itself from the world for over 200 years until the Americans arrived and insisted on trade. Western powers imposed unequal treaties that crippled Japan's economy. Lacking natural resources, Japan decided to acquire some by force. They went to war with China to gain influence over Korea and seized much Chinese territory. But then the West told them to stop. Unable to confront the West, Japan agreed to withdraw. Wait, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and carving out spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so. Okay, see ya. So Japan decided to fight Russia and shock the world by winning. They fully annexed Korea but didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's Asian colonies and islands. Then, in an incident possibly staged by the Japanese army, a bomb exploded on a Japanese train in Manchuria, giving Japan a pretext to invade and seize control. So here's the situation. Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan all believed in racial superiority, harbored hostility toward the Allies, and sought to militarize and expand their territories. And so they did. Starting with Germany, Hitler despised the Treaty of Versailles and was ready to undo it. In blatant violation, he formed Luftwaffe squadrons, reintroduced conscription, and expanded the army. The Allies did nothing. Hitler then sent troops into the demilitarized Rhineland, ordering retreat if the Allies intervened. The Allies still did nothing. With his military strengthened, he moved on to the next step. He aimed to increase the Aryan population rapidly, which required Lebensraum living space, meaning he intended to conquer the world. For now, much of Europe would suffice. He began eyeing his neighbors. The Allies finally grew concerned and adopted a largely ineffective policy called appeasement. It went like this. Hitler demanded something. The Allies said no. Then they said yes, but no more. Hitler demanded more, and the cycle repeated. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and took it without resistance. Boom. This is Germany now. Next, he demanded the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies met Hitler in Munich and said, "Look, we'll give you what you want." Wait, shouldn't I be at this meeting? Anyway. Yes, really. What's the catch? Just sign a paper promising not to invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. Okay. Chamberlain returned home triumphant, waving the signed paper and declaring peace averted and world peace preserved. We even built a statue of Chamberlain and celebrate this day annually. But Hitler invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia. What? He lied to me. What do you expect? I'm Hitler. Not to be outdone, Mussolini also wanted a piece of the action. He wondered if there was a nation so underdeveloped that its people would defend themselves with bows and arrows against tanks. Oh, there is? Perfect. So he took it. Italy also sought control of the Adriatic Sea entrance and occupied Albania. Then, in another possibly staged incident, Japanese and Chinese troops exchanged fire at the Marco Polo Bridge, prompting Japan to launch another invasion of China. They swept through Beijing, Shanghai, and advanced to the Yangtze Valley and Nanking, China's then capital. There, Japan committed horrific atrocities against the Chinese people. Back in Europe, Germany and Italy formalized their alliance by signing the Pact of Steel. Hitler then turned his attention to Poland and the hated Polish Corridor, which split Germany in two. At this point, the Allies warned Hitler that invading Poland would mean war. Hitler planned to continue eastward, but didn't want a two-front war, so he made an alliance with Stalin, proposing they invade Poland together and split it, promising not to betray each other, though he definitely planned to. This shocked the West. On September 1st, 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on Germany. The Poles fought fiercely, but were overwhelmed by the two giants attacking from both sides. Then came the phony war, a period where little happened. The French launched a minor invasion into the Saarland, but mostly stayed defensive and eventually gave up. France remained proud of its World War I victory and hadn't modernized much. They still used horses, sent messages by motorbike instead of radio, gave vague orders, and rarely inspected troops. They built defenses along the German border, but didn't extend them to the Channel and avoided artillery strikes on Germany, fearing retaliation. In war, they avoided attacking, and initially the UK was no better. Chamberlain hoped for a diplomatic end to the war. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said probably only provided toilet paper for the war's duration. They also sent only 200,000 troops to France, while the French mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to keep the war far from home to avoid another World War I, so they looked north to Norway. Neutral Sweden was exporting iron ore to Germany via neutral Norway. The Allies asked them to stop exporting to Germany, but they refused. Then the Soviet Union attacked Finland, so the Allies proposed landing troops in Norway and moving them through Sweden to help Finland and possibly seize Swedish airfields. Norway and Sweden still refused, so the UK mined Norwegian waters to force transport ships into international waters and attacked a German tanker there. Hitler realized the Allies' plan and quickly moved to secure his iron ore supply by invading Denmark and Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key Norwegian ports, but Germany controlled Norway's airfields, and their air superiority decided the battle. The Allies had to retreat. After this embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned and was replaced by Winston Churchill, who had a different approach to the Germans. Hitler's overall strategy resembled Germany's World War I plan: attack France, defeat it, knock out the UK, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the phony war, the Allies gave Hitler time to prepare. Now he was ready to attack. The Allies wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium refused. Not surprisingly, Hitler invaded Belgium to bypass French defenses. The Allies rushed into Belgium to confront the Germans head-on, seeming like a repeat of World War I. But this time, Hitler had a surprise: blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of refugees westward, slowing the Allies. To the south, the French left the Ardennes, a hilly forested area, lightly defended, assuming it was impenetrable. The Germans smashed through with 50 Wehrmacht divisions, encircling the Allied armies rapidly. The best Allied forces were trapped. The Germans closed in from all sides, destroying France's best armies and nearly wiping out the British. But the British managed a desperate last-minute evacuation at Dunkirk, with civilian ships bravely rescuing soldiers. With most French forces depleted, Germany took Paris and France fell. What Germany failed to do in World War I, Hitler accomplished quickly. Hitler hoped France's fall would crush UK morale and force peace, but annoyingly, it did not. He needed to secure the Western Front and tried to break the UK's will with psychological tactics. The UK was now alone, and Hitler wanted to highlight that. Just before France fell, Italy declared war on the Allies, worsening the UK's position. Instead of occupying all of France, Hitler took only the coastal areas for defense and allowed France to remain a German puppet state, making it appear the UK's old ally had switched sides. Hitler also hoped the UK wouldn't attack French naval bases or colonies in Africa, giving Germany a southern defense line. The UK responded by attacking French naval bases in Algeria, sinking many ships. So, have at it. Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain before German troops could land on British soil. He would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's great British invasion was coming. But then Churchill ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London.